Today's lesson is dividing polynomials. And your essential question is, what are the steps I follow to divide polynomials using long division? So the first example that we have is going to be dividing polynomials by long division. And we're dividing 3x to the fourth minus 5x cubed plus 4x minus 6 by x squared minus 3x plus 5. So this seems like it's going to be kind of complicated, but we're just going to use long division just like you did in grade school. Now, one thing to remember is you have to check your exponents to see if there's any parts missing. So you'll notice in the part that we're dividing by, we are missing an x squared. So since this is the dividend and this is the divisor, so you can write that in your notes if you think it will be helpful. The dividend is the one that we're dividing, and this is the one we're dividing by. This is the divisor. Okay, so the one that we're actually dividing by is called the divisor. Now, since there's no x squared here, we need to put a 0 in as a placeholder. So the number that we're dividing by, the divisor, goes on the outside. So we have x squared minus 3x plus 5 on the outside. And then on the inside, we have 3x to the fourth minus 5x cubed. And then we have to put in a 0x squared as a placeholder because we skipped x squared. And then plus 4x minus 6. So the important thing to remember is whatever goes underneath your division symbol, that's the one that you need to put zeros in for if anything's skipped. And that just helps line things up when we are going to be subtracting later, so that you can keep your like terms lined up. Okay, so the next step is to divide the first terms. So we're going to take 3x to the fourth divided by x squared. So 3x to the fourth divided by x squared, choose another color, is 3x squared. And so I'm going to write that above the x squared. You don't have to do this necessarily, but it helps you kind of know when you're finished with the problem. So I like it. So if I take 3x to the fourth divided by x squared, I would have x squared left over. And then what I do is I multiply that answer, 3x squared, by the entire outside. And I'm going to write it down here. So 3x squared times x squared would be 3x to the fourth. And then 3x squared times negative 3x would be negative 9x cubed. And then 3x squared times 5 would be 15x squared. So you can see why it's nice to put that 0 in here so that everything's nice and lined up. Now we draw our line and we are going to subtract. So step 4 is to subtract the inside. Okay, so these numbers here should always cancel out. And then you really have to pay attention to your signs. So we have negative 5x cubed minus negative 9. So negative 5 minus negative 9 is going to turn into plus. So negative 5 plus 9 would be 4x cubed. And then 0 minus 15 would be negative 15x squared. And then we bring down the other numbers. So plus 4x minus 6. So now this is what we have left. Oops. Okay. So then what we're going to do is repeat our process. So step 5 is to just repeat steps 2 and 3 until the outside is higher degree than the remainder. And I'll kind of explain more in depth what that means, but it's pretty easy to tell when you're finished because you can't divide anymore. So now I'm going to divide my first terms again. So I'm going to take 4x cubed divided by x squared. So you always start with dividing the first terms. Okay, so then 4x cubed divided by x squared would be 4x. So I'm going to write plus 4x on the top in my answer section. Then you remember you take and you multiply your answer by the outside. So 4x times x squared would be 4x cubed. And then 4x times negative 3x would be negative 12x squared. And then 4x times 5 would be 20x. And then I'm going to subtract again. So these will always cancel out. If they don't, then you made a mistake somewhere. Then I have to do negative 15 minus negative 12. So minus and negative will turn into plus. So negative 15 plus 12 would be negative 3x squared. And then 4 minus 20 would be negative 16x. And then negative 6 minus, this would be a 0 here since there's nothing there. Negative 6 minus 0 would just be negative 6. Or you can just bring it down. Okay, so then I repeat again. So I'm going to divide my first terms, negative 3x squared divided by x squared. So that would just leave me with minus 3. Now you can see I'm at the end. So as long as you line up your answers above everything, you can tell when you're finished. So I still need to multiply this negative 3 by the outside, though, to get my remainder. So negative 3 times x squared would be negative 3x squared. And negative 3 times negative 3x would be positive 9x. And negative 3 times 5 would be negative 15. So then I'm going to subtract again. And negative 3 minus negative 3 will turn into a plus, so these will cancel out. And then negative 16 minus 9 would be negative 25x. And negative 6 minus negative 15 will turn into a plus. So negative 6 plus 15 would be 9. And so because I can't divide negative 25x by x squared, this has a lesser degree than my divisor. So I know I can't go any further. So this is going to be my remainder. So how do I write my answer then? Well, my answer was 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. But then I had a remainder of negative 25x plus 9. So really, I still want to divide this by this. So to write your answer, you write plus negative 25x plus 9 all over what you were dividing by, x squared minus 3x plus 5. So this is our answer. So you write what you got at the top, and then to write your remainder, you write the remainder over your divisor. All right, so that was that entire process. Now there is a much easier process that I like better, but unfortunately we can't use this all the time, which is why we have to know how to do long division. And this is called synthetic division. Now, there is something called a remainder theorem. And it says, if we're dividing by a polynomial in the form x minus k, so x minus a number, or technically this could be x plus a number, because minus a negative is the same as plus. So if you're dividing by x minus a number or x plus a number, you can use synthetic division, which is so much easier and faster, and you will love it. So I'm going to show you an example of how to use synthetic division. So we're going to divide 2x cubed plus x squared minus 8x plus 5 by x plus 3. So since I'm dividing by x plus 3, I can use synthetic, because if it's x plus a number or x minus a number, I can use synthetic. So to set up synthetic, you have to use whatever the value of k is on the outside. So because this says plus 3, technically that's minus a negative 3, so we have to put a negative 3 on the outside. So you can just remember, put the opposite number on the outside. Okay, so when I'm setting this up, you're going to set it up the same way that you would do synthetic substitution. So I have to check to see if there's any exponents missing, and luckily for me there's not. So this one should be a pretty easy example. So I'm going to set it up. I have -3 on the outside, and then I have 2, 1, -8, and 5 on the inside when I set it up. Now this process is exactly like synthetic substitution, so it should be really easy to do. So we have to bring down the 2, and then we multiply, so we get -6, and then we add, so we get -5, and then we multiply, so we get +15, and then we add, so we get 7, then we multiply, so we get -21, and then we add again, and we get -16. Now, whatever this number is on the outside, that is your remainder, because remember, we're actually dividing, we're not substituting, so this isn't the answer, this is the remainder. So, I kind of wrote the steps out here. We multiply the numbers on the bottom by -3, and then we add the insides. Okay. Now, to write your answer, this is what you'll do to write the answer. Technically, this last number is the constant, and then this number has the x, and then this number has the x squared. So you start from the back and you count forward. So technically, this is our answer right here. So we would have 2x squared minus 5x plus 7, and then our remainder would be -16 divided by what we were dividing by in the first place, which was x plus 3. So this is the answer. So when you're writing your answer using synthetic division, you need to make sure that this portion is the answer, and this portion is the remainder. All right, make sure you go back and answer your essential question and write your summary.